Lesson 3. The Marquess of Wellesley, 1798 to 1805. Learning objectives. Students will come to understand 1. The political condition of India at the time of the arrival of Lord Wellesley. 2. The meaning of subsidiary system. 3. Merits and defects of the subsidiary system. 4. The Indian states that come under this system. 5. Fourth Mysore War and the final fall of Tipu Sultan. 6. War with the Marathas. 7. Estimate of Lord Wellesley. The appointment of Richard Colley Wellesley as Governor General marks an epoch in the history of British India. He was a great imperialist and called himself a Bengal tiger. Wellesley came to India with a determination to launch a forward policy in order to make the British Empire in India into the British Empire of India. The system that he adopted to achieve his object is known as the subsidiary alliance. Political condition of India at the time of Wellesley's arrival. In the northwestern India, the danger of Zaman Shah's aggression posed a serious threat to the British power in India. In the north and central India, the Marathas remained a formidable political power. The Nizam of Hyderabad employed the Frenchmen to train his army. The political unrest in the Karnataka region continued, and Tipu Sultan had remained the uncompromising enemy of the British. Moreover, the policy of neutrality adopted by Sir John Shore, the successor of Cornwallis, created a kind of political unrest in India and greatly affected the prestige of the English. His non-intervention policy contributed much to the growth of anti-British feelings. Further, Napoleon's move for an eastern invasion created a fear among English statesmen. It was in this light that Wellesley molded his policy. Preservation of British prestige and removal of French danger from India were Wellesley's twin aims. He was also thoroughly convinced that only a strong British power in India could reduce and control the existing tyranny and corruption in Indian states. Therefore, he reversed the non-intervention policy of his predecessor and formulated his master plan, namely the subsidiary alliance. The subsidiary system. The predecessors of Wellesley concluded alliances with Indian princes like the Nawab of Oudh and the Nizam of Hyderabad. They received subsidies from the Indian rulers for the maintenance of British troops, which were used for the protection of respective Indian states. Wellesley enlarged and consolidated the already existing system. However, his originality was revealed in its application. Main features of subsidiary alliance. 1. Any Indian ruler who entered into the subsidiary alliance with the British had to maintain a contingent of British troops in his territory. It was commanded by a British officer. The Indian state was called the protected state, and the British hereinafter were referred to as the paramount power. It was the duty of the British to safeguard that state from external aggression, and to help its ruler maintain internal peace. The protected state should give some money or give part of its territory to the British to support the subsidiary force. 2. The protected state should cut off its connection with European powers other than the English and with the French in particular. The state was also forbidden to have any political contact even with other Indian powers without the permission of the British. 3. The ruler of the protected state should keep a British resident at his court and disband his own army. He should not employ Europeans in his service without the sanction of the paramount power. 4. The paramount power should not interfere in the internal affairs of the protected state. Benefits to the British. Wellesley's subsidiary system is regarded as one of the master strokes of British imperialism. It increased the military strength of the company in India at the expense of the protected states. The territories of the company were free from the ravages of war, thereby establishing the stability of the British power in India. The position of the British was strengthened against its Indian and non-Indian enemies. Under the system, expansion of British power became easy. Thus Wellesley's diplomacy made the British the paramount power in India. Defects of the subsidiary system. The immediate effect of the establishment of subsidiary forces was the introduction of anarchy because of the unemployment of thousands of soldiers sent away by the Indian princes. The freebooting activities of disbanded soldiers were felt much in central India, where the menace of Pindaris affected the people. Further, the subsidiary system had a demoralizing effect on the princes of the protected states. Safeguarded against external danger and internal revolt, they neglected their administrative responsibilities. They preferred to lead easygoing and pleasure-seeking lives. As a result, misgovernment followed. In course of time, the anarchy and misrule in several states had resulted in their annexation by the British. Thus, the subsidiary system proved to be a preparation for annexation. Furthermore, the British collected very heavy subsidies from the protected princes, and this had adversely affected their economy. Enforcement of the subsidiary system. Hyderabad was the first state which was brought under Wellesley's subsidiary system in 1798. The treaty concluded in 1798 was an ad hoc measure. It fixed the amount to be paid annually at Rs.20 for lakhs for the subsidiary force. In accordance with the treaty, all the French troops in Hyderabad were disbanded and replaced by a subsidiary British force. A new treaty was concluded in 1800 by which the Nizam ceded large territories to the company, and this constitutes the famous ceded districts. Oudh, the threat of invasion by Zaman Shah of Afghanistan, was the pretext for Wellesley to force the Nawab of Oudh to enter into a subsidiary treaty. Accordingly, the Nawab gave the British the rich lands of Rohilkhand, the lower Dub and Gorakhpur for the maintenance of an increased army which the British stationed in the capital of Oudh. The strength of Nawab's own army was reduced. For the maintenance of law and order, the British were authorized to frame rules and regulations. By this, the British acquired the right to interfere in the internal matters of Oudh. Although the company obtained a fertile and populous territory, which increased its resources, the high-handed action of Wellesley was severely criticized. Tanjore, Surat and the Karnataka. Wellesley assumed the administration of Tanjore, Surat and the Karnataka by concluding treaties with the respective rulers of these states. The Maratha state of Tanjore witnessed a succession dispute. In 1799, Wellesley concluded a treaty with Sirfaji. In accordance with this treaty, the British took over the administration of the state and allowed Sirfaji to retain the title of Raja with a pension of 4 lakhs of rupees. Raja Sarbhoji was a man of culture and attractive manners. He was the disciple of Schwartz. He built the Saraswati Mahal Library in Tanjore, which contains valuable books and manuscripts. He patronized art and culture. The Principality of Surat came under British protection as early as 1759. The Nawab of this historic city died in 1799, and his brother succeeded him. The change of succession provided Wellesley an opportunity to take over the administration of Surat. The Nawab was allowed to retain the title and given a pension of 1 lakh of rupees. The people of Karnataka had been suffering for a long time by the double. Government. The Nawab, Umadatulamara, was an incompetent ruler noted for his extravagance and misrule. He died in the middle of 1801 and his son, Ali Hussain, became the Nawab. Wellesley asked him to retire with a liberal pension, leaving the administration to the English. Since he refused, Wellesley signed a treaty with Azam-ud-Daula, the nephew of the deceased Nawab, in 1801. Accordingly, the entire military and civil administration of the Karnataka came under the British. The Fourth Anglo-Mysore War, 1799. The circumstances which led to the Fourth Mysore War can be summarized as follows. Tipu Sultan wanted to avenge his humiliating defeat, and the terms imposed on him by the British. He also aimed at making Mysore a strong state. Tipu worked continuously to secure help to fight British imperialism. He took efforts to seek the help of the France, Arabia, Kabul and Turkey. He corresponded with the revolutionary French government.
In July 1798, at Srirangapattinam, a Jacobean club was started and the flag of the French Republic was hoisted.
It was at this juncture that Wellesley reached Calcutta with a mind already filled with fear of Napoleon. Therefore, he prepared for a war against Mysore. As a part of his strategy, Wellesley tried to revive the Triple Alliance of 1790 with the Marathas. Though his proposal was not accepted by the Marathas, they promised to remain neutral. However, a subsidiary alliance with the Nizam was concluded by the British, and as a consequence, the French force at Hyderabad was disbanded. Wellesley set out to persuade Tipu to accept a pact of subsidiary alliance and wrote letters requesting the Tipu to dismiss the French, to receive an English envoy, and to make terms with the company and its allies. Tipu paid scant attention to Wellesley's letters, and thus the Fourth Anglo-Mysore War started. The war was short and decisive. As planned, the Bombay Army under General Stewart invaded Mysore from the west. The Madras Army, which was led by the Governor-General's brother, Arthur Wellesley, forced Tipu to retreat to his capital Srirangapatnam. Although severely wounded, he fought till his capital Srirangapatnam was captured and he himself was shot dead. Mysore after the war. With the fall of Tipu Sultan, the kingdom of Mysore fell at the feet of Wellesley. He restored Hindu rule at the central part of the kingdom. A 5-year-old boy, Krishnaraja III, a descendant of the dethroned Hindu Raja, was enthroned at Mysore, which became the capital almost after 200 years. Purnia, the previous minister, became Divan. The remaining parts of the kingdom were divided between the British and the Nizam. The whole of Kannara, Wayanad, Coimbatore, Dharmapuri and Srirangapatnam were retained by the British, whereas the Nizam was given the areas around Gudi and a part of Chittoor and Chitaldurg districts. A British resident was stationed at Mysore. Tipu's family was sent to the fort of Vellore. Wellesley and the Marathas. The only power that remained outside the purview of the subsidiary system was the Marathas. Nana Fadnavis provided the leadership to the Marathas. He was responsible for the preservation of independence of his country from the onslaught of the British. By extending a helping hand to Cornwallis against Tipu, he was able to acquire a large slice of territory as the share of the Marathas from the kingdom of Mysore. His death in 1800 removed the last great Maratha leader. Peshwa Baji Rao too, despite his stately appearance and immense learning, lacked political wisdom. The infighting among the Maratha leaders proved to be self-destructive. Jaswant Rao Holkar and Dalit Rao Scindia were fighting against each other. The Peshwa supported Scindia against Holkar. Holkar marched against the Peshwa. The combined forces of Scindia and the Peshwa were utterly defeated. The city of Pune fell at the feet of the victor, who did not hesitate to commit all sorts of atrocities, including the torturing of rich inhabitants. With rich booty, Holkar returned to his capital. Peshwa Baji Rao too was in great danger, so he fled to Bassein, where he signed the Treaty of Bassein with the British in 1802. It was a subsidiary treaty, and the Peshwa was recognized as the head of the Maratha kingdom. Although it was nominal, the treaty was considered the crowning triumph of Wellesley's subsidiary system. In accordance with this document, the foreign policy of the Marathas came under British control, and therefore any action of the Maratha chiefs against the British was successfully prevented. That is the reason why the Marathas considered the treaty as a document of surrendering their independence. As an immediate response to the Treaty of Bassein, the British troops marched under the command of Arthur Wellesley towards Pune and restored the Peshwa to his position. The forces of Holkar vanished from the Maratha capital. The Second Maratha War, 1803 to 1805. Dalit Rao Scindia and Raghoji Bhosle took the Treaty of Bassein as an insult to the national honor of the Marathas. Soon the forces of both the chieftains were united and they crossed the river Nirmada. Wellesley seized this opportunity and declared war in August 1803. Arthur Wellesley captured Ahmednagar in August 1803 and defeated the combined forces of Scindia and Bhosle at Assay near Aurangabad. Subsequently, Arthur Wellesley carried the war into Bhosle's territory and completely defeated the Maratha forces on the plains of Argaon. As a result, the Treaty of Diajaon was signed between Wellesley and Wellesley. The former signed the subsidiary treaty, which forced him to give up the province of Cuttack in Orissa. The campaign of British commander Lord Lake against the forces of Scindia was rather dramatic. Lake triumphantly entered the historic city of Delhi and took Shah Alam, the Mughal emperor, under British protection. Lake was quick in consolidating his conquests. By negotiating with the Raja of Burtapur, he occupied Agra. Sadly, this military engagement proved to be a battle of great slaughter, in which thousands of Maratha soldiers perished. Scindia signed a subsidiary treaty with the British. It is known as the Treaty of Surji Arjungaon. During the war against Wellesley and Scindia, Holkar remained aloof because he was Scindia's enemy. However, when Wellesley offered an alliance, Holkar made extreme demands. This made Wellesley to declare war against Holkar. The campaign against Holkar was well organized, but the English generals for the first time committed blunders. Holkar remained unsubdued. Estimate of Wellesley. An unscrupulous annexationist and an advocate of forward policy, Wellesley was one of the greatest empire builders that England had ever produced. Wellesley converted the British Empire in India to the British Empire of India. The establishment of British paramountcy in India was his supreme task. He located the weak spots of the Indian powers and applied his political technique, namely subsidiary alliance. By the annexation of Karnataka and Tanjore, he paved the way for the formation of the Madras Presidency. He rightly deserves to be called the maker of the erstwhile Madras Presidency and the creator of the province of Agra. In this manner, a great part of the Indian subcontinent was brought under company protection. He turned the East India Company from a trading corporation into an imperial power. Sir George Barlow was the next Governor-General for 2 years, 1805-07. The Vellore Mutiny of 1806 took place during his administration. He was succeeded by Lord Minto, 1807-13, who concluded the Treaty of Amritsar with Ranjit Singh of Punjab in 1809. The Charter Act of 1813 was passed during this period. Learning outcome. After learning this lesson, the student should be able to explain 1. The political condition in India was not favorable to the British. 2. The techniques of subsidiary system by which Wellesley expanded the British control over the Indian states. 3. The manner in which the Indian states were admitted into this system. 4. Later this led to their permanent inclusion into the British Empire. 5. The Fourth Mysore War and the defeat of Tipu Sultan removed an important threat to the expansion of the British in India. 6. The Second Maratha War exposed the weaknesses of the Maratha Confederacy and the advantages of the British. 7. Wellesley was able to make the company an imperial power in the Indian subcontinent.